Hello and welcome to Adventures in Venueland, an EVMC podcast. Join us for this all-access pass backstage and behind the scenes with some of the brightest minds that cross the scope of the live event industry. I'm Dave Redelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. We'll introduce you to incredible guests who journey with us as we dive deep into the world of venues, tours, festivals, and everything in between. Grab your laminate and meet us in Venueland.
Hello and welcome to a very special holiday episode of Adventures in Venueland. I'm Dave Redelberger, and I got a couple of special guests today. You guys like to say hello?
Hello, this is Paul Hooper.
And this is Camille Faulkner, the audio editor.
Camille, behind the scenes, appreciate you and of course Samantha and Megan and all our Venueland team. And this episode's a little different. We're doing a little year in review and very excited to kind of share some memories from this past year. And maybe if you didn't listen to every episode, first of all, what's wrong with you? Why would you miss the gold that we are providing for you? But also, be able to, kind of go, oh yeah, some great memories. And maybe there's an episode or two that you missed that you might like to check out. So we're going to kind of revisit 2025. A year where we just celebrated our 5-year anniversary. We just released our 150th episode. And Paul, as we're here in the holiday season, always great to take a little time to look back at some of our past recent adventures.
Yeah, and as we were talking about a little bit before we started recording, it's we have done 150 episodes, so sometimes it's easier or harder for us to remember which ones fell in which years, and so I think it is fun to kind of look back and be like, this happened this year. Remember the awesome people that we've had on that we're always so fortunate, are willing to share their time and their adventures with us. And kind of like you mentioned, if people, they get busy and listeners, sometimes they maybe know a name here or there and they're friends with them. So they key in and listen to those episodes, but maybe they skip other ones that they don't know as much about. And so this could be an opportunity to get a little bit of a preview and then decide if you want to go back and listen to some ones that maybe you didn't have time to listen to earlier in the year, especially as we have a little more downtime during this holiday season.
Yeah, with it being the holiday season, I also thought it'd be great to trash talk some of our previous guests. Let's start with you. Which guest was so bad you had to edit their episode for hours to make them sound?
Isn't that the Festivus, the errands of the grievances, right? You gotta. Which one required the most editing, Camille?
Yeah, it rhymes with rave. Just kidding. It's not Dave.
That's me. Yeah, no, it's true. No, it's funny because we're always, and Camille hears this when we're editing the episodes. We're always like, we got a great editor. We'll make you sound good. Don't worry about it. So let's start with a big thanks to Camille for all her help and making us sound like we're not total idiots throughout the year.
Thank you.
Paul, we're better to start than I guess the beginning of the year, right? Let's take it back.
Yes, let's go to the beginning. When we're thinking of New Year's, new beginnings, what better than New Year's Eve? And when you think of New Year's Eve, there is no bigger event in the world than New Year's Eve in Times Square. So we were very fortunate to do one of our inside bonus series episode about New Year's Eve in Times Square. Big thank you to Joanne Esposito on that one, who's a friend of the podcast and kind of made that connection for us. But we, recorded with them, learned all about what went into that massive event that not only has so many people at the location, but also so many people watching from around the globe. So that came out on January 15th.
That was a great episode because if you're one of those people who watches the ball drop every year, and I'm one of those people, hearing what goes on behind the scenes as an events person, I totally geeked out about this episode. Would be a great listen this time of year. Again, it's the Inside episode from January 15th. I really like that one.
Yes.
Oh, I remember there's a part of the episode where I might be misspeaking just a little bit, but they gave out like shards of the old ball.
Yeah, with your replacement ball.
So jealous.
I know, right?
I was so jealous of
I
All the
want
people who
one.
got to have their little shard. I know.
I know that was so cool. What a special thing, and what a really cool way to like leverage something that uniquely they have that no other event would have, and turn it into some sort of awesome community engagement. Next up, and this was a big one because this was kind of that New Year's Eve one, a little bit of a setup, a little bit of a tease into the big one. January 29th, we had Nina Jackson come back. This is our first return guest we've ever had on the podcast. We kind of make it a point. There's so many amazing people in this industry that we certainly do not need to revisit the well, but it is so fun to catch up with people. And what made this so special is this was our episode 100 of our regular series. Which is, the ones where we highlight different people. And so bringing Nina back, who was our episode 1 guest way back in 2020 when we were, even more than we are now, figuring out what the hell we were doing. And we were also in the midst of a global pandemic that had shaken the live event industry. To have Nina come back, catch up with her, and then to kind of, this is something kind of unique because we've never had a return guest, but you sort of have that history of knowing Nina's history in the industry. So it allowed us to dive in a bit more into other aspects, her strategies around team building, creating a good workplace culture. Thought that was really interesting, and it was so fun to have Nina back. And everyone really loves that original episode. Often, it is by far our most listened to episode, but it's very much an introduction to our podcast. So kind of having a revisit to that was really special.
Yeah, especially because, Paul, when we recorded that, we were in the first time we interviewed Nina. It was during the pandemic.
Sure.
And we
didn't even know what we were going to be doing. Like, are we going to have 3 episodes of this podcast? I mean, certainly, I don't think we were projecting ahead to 100.
We didn't know how we were going to keep the heat on in our houses. Let's be honest.
How was I going to get a job? Right.
But no, Nina, hearing Nina, if you get a chance, check that episode out, because hearing what they're doing down there at Houston at Energy Park, it's just really cool Nina's one of my favorite people. Every year when we get to see her at EVMC, she's just so warm and just great. And she is a queen in this industry. Definitely worth revisiting that episode if you haven't checked it out.
From there, we go to February 12th. We talk to Allie Katz. And Allie is in Baltimore at the arena there. And it was really interesting. I think Allie, as really every guest is this way, it's kind of funny. We tell this to the guests, and whether they believe us or not, it is true. And certainly any listeners who have listened with us this whole time, every person's story is so unique and different. And I think the thing that really stands out for me, among many things with Allie, is her really interesting path into getting to her role she was in now, and working with content creators and YouTube content creators. And certainly we've never had a guest on that has that background experience, and sort of how that prepared her for this frantic side of live events and being able to roll with the punches. And then I think we see that play out, when we look at some of the things that we talked to her about with like her artist welcomes and gifts.
Her venue coloring books, Paul.
The
coloring books idea.
Yes.
Camille, do you remember that? That was so cool, right?
I do. I do. I agree with everything that Paul is saying. She had such an interesting take, and she was so flexible, so creative. I think from that background and just her personality in general, it was a really fun episode.
Yeah, and it's really I think this industry certainly can be high pressure, and especially when it comes to those, welcomes and gifting. And sometimes you've got so many events in a week. It's like, how do you fit it in? And so it was really interesting to hear her perspective of this was kind of the background I came from. So that she almost operates and thrives in that chaos, which I thought was really interesting. And then going into our next episode, February 26th, we talked with our friend Michelle McCarthy, who is the most lovely person, and obviously brought her wonderful Irish accent to the episode, but also, spoke about starting her new company and
the MCC Marketing Group.
Yes, and what that experience, was like. We certainly have talked to different people that have struck out on their own, and there's some others that we talked to this year. But it's always really fascinating to kind of hear about like what motivates people to take that leap, and then some of the challenges and some of the thrills and fun, rewards that come from having your own business. And I think her history, in the industry and certainly in that greater New York area is really fascinating too.
If you've ever thought about starting your own agency, right? This episode's a must check out. It's just really, I'm always, it's one of those things where many of us in marketing sit back on our bad days. We go, oh, what else could I do? And this is one of those people who actually explored it, took the leap, and is succeeding. So definitely worth checking out Michelle's episode.
And then next up on our list, this was a big one. This is one that we had been working on a bit. There's certainly some guests that we have in mind and earmark and try to kind of work on, and some take a little bit longer just from a logistics side than others to schedule and whatnot. On March 12th, we talked to Alex Hodges with Nederlander, and I mean, anyone who knows Alex knows he has just the most amazing catalog of stories, throughout his career. I mean, working with all kinds of artists, Stevie Ray Vaughan, very instrumental in his career, and just also from his beginnings in Georgia, which I think is really funny too, because Camille, I know when you were listening and editing, it was like, oh my gosh, like, it's like you didn't know
Macon,
that.
Georgia. Yeah.
Right. Like, let's go. Shout out.
And then
Macon.
he went to the Fox Theater as a kid, right?
Yes. And
so
and just has such fond memories of that and bringing artists back to there. And I mean, if you were really like a live event nerd or a concert nerd or an artist nerd, this episode is just full of stories. It is, and people that know Alex know that he can just rattle them off, and they're just really incredible.
Yeah, we could have done a whole bonus episode where he's just telling stories from his career.
Easily. Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
In college and like just working with one of the guys that he goes to college with, and starting off, and how you go from that to being the CEO of Nederlander. What an adventure. So cool to hear his story.
So very cool. And then coming off of that, we March 26th, we talked to Michelle Kajawara, Kaj, or Kaji, as some people call her. And she is someone that I had kind of earmarked for a bit that I really wanted to talk to. I'd heard her on the Women Blazers podcast, which isn't around anymore, but certainly still exists and is worth going back and checking out and listening to some of those amazing episodes with Deanna Witter, the host. But she was really great, really refreshing and interesting to hear. And so, I reached out to one of her coworkers and one of our friends that we've had on the podcast before in the past, Kara Vanderhook, and worked on getting it set up. And really one of the things, she talked about a lot and was really interesting, particularly from the premium sales side. And, we haven't had as many guests on from that angle. So that was fascinating. But really, I loved when she talked about, knowing when to take space for yourself and step away, how she took a sabbatical at one point and really prioritizing what, refills your tank. And for her, it was very much travel and, going around to all these amazing places. And I think really having that self-awareness is something we could all probably take a great lesson from, no matter the industry or the side of the industry that we're on. That was just a really, I felt better walking away from that episode than I was before it,
Yeah, Kaj, by the way, is the SVP of Premium Business and Events at Crypto.com, Arena, and EEG Worldwide. And if you ever dabbled or thought about the premium side of things, a great episode to check out, especially about how they collaborate with marketing and booking, and some really Kaj, just great energy. Definitely, if you're ever interested in that side of the world, an episode to check out.
Our next episode after that took us all the way north to Edmonton, Canada, which we've had some Canadian guests on in the past, but never anyone from Edmonton. So that was really interesting. On April 9th, we talked to, and I hope I don't butcher his last name, Chris, please forgive me, but Chris in Muckien, and I know he goes by Mucky as a bit of a nickname, which is great. And we learned all about Edmonton and, everything they have going on with their district up there.
Nice district.
Yes, all the work they've put into the arena. Of course, they've had a lot of success with their hockey team, but it was really interesting to just hear about, this other pocket of Canada that, is right there kind of in the middle, really doing amazing stuff. And one thing I really loved connecting with him on and hearing about is how he developed this love for concert photography, which of course I share with him, and how, that's something that he sort of fell into and then became inspired by many other concert photographers, and it's become this big passion of his, and as well as just photography in general. And this is another person that travels a lot, so he and his wife will travel and do photography, and it was just a really great episode. I really enjoyed that one.
I liked how Chris was open about, something that we all do, which is stealing ideas for the people. He called it.
Yes.
He called it. I think he called it reshaping. Right.
Yeah.
So how you see the amazing stuff that we are all doing, and then take it and kind of reshape it and make it your own, and then that might inspire the person who did it originally to kind of evolve on it, and that evolution of marketing, which we all share. And I think it's one of the great things. And Chris had some really cool thoughts on that.
And then that takes us to, closer to the end of April, April 23rd, where we talked with our friend Dustin Turner. And, Dustin, many people know Dustin in this industry, and, what a really interesting career path he's had, really touching so many different sides of the industry, getting his start in radio and working at, radio tent setups at events, and then, moving over to the venue side and working on the promoter side and the agency side. And, I think we all really love Dustin. It's really refreshing to hear his perspective on, not many people have touched that many sides of the industry, and really how that whole machine works. And I think it uniquely sets him up to be very successful in his role, because he knows that rub when it comes to the challenges that venues face and that promoters face, and knows kind of what he needs from them and how to push them when he needs to, but also understands limitations and challenges that they have and how to kind of make it easy on them. And Dustin's just so great. And one thing that was really special is we also posted this on our social media, but in September, fast forwarding in the year, I went down to Nashville. I saw a concert at Bridgestone Arena and saw Camille, which was so great. But we, a whole bunch of us that, Camille and I, and then various previous guests of ours got together, and Dustin was there. And it was so great to see Dustin in person. I hadn't seen him in a few years. And I think that was just really a fun moment, and we've talked to many people from Nashville, but as we all know, there are so many people in Nashville, including Camille, and it is just a wealth of people in the industry, and it was so great.
Yeah, Dustin is there with CAA. He's a music marketing executive, and if you want to listen to an episode with somebody who's thriving in Nashville, Dustin is just killing it. He, again, one of my favorite people in the industry, and it's always they're with CAA, and I got to. It's great when you actually can take the time to get to know some of these people that maybe you hear their names about or you're working with,
or you see copied on an email maybe, and you're like, who is this person?
Right.
Yeah.
And Dustin's episode is really great for checking out that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that side, definitely worth checking out. And Camille, I'm still jealous of that trip where you guys all got together in Nashville.
I know, it was so fun, and it was really interesting because I hadn't met a lot of the people who we've had as guests on the podcast, and so it felt like, oh, I already know you, but we had never actually met in person.
Right.
I was the lucky one that got to sit next to Dustin, so
there you go.
Yes,
wonderful.
Yes. It was so great. It was so great. Following that episode, we go to New York. We go to May 7th, where we talked to Joyce Leviston. And this was so interesting. Joyce is someone that, was very highly recommended to me. I sort of had seen different, recognition she had gotten. I had talked to some previous colleagues of hers, and was not new to her role, but relatively new to her role at this, one of the biggest convention centers in the country in New
Right.
York, and it's really fascinating to hear. I think we all are used to the convention centers in our own cities, and we certainly don't talk to a whole lot of people on the convention center side on the podcast. So that was just really interesting in its own regard, and kind of how that approach to marketing and hospitality and everything varies when you're talking about a convention center versus an arena or theater or stadium. And particularly hearing about it at this huge convention center that has all this attention, and they've put a lot of investment into it, and it's just gorgeous. I remember particularly that they have this just really wild sustainability initiatives, like they have gardens along their roof, which is so cool. And I think we posted some of the photos from that, but it was just really interesting to hear her approach to hospitality and the human side, how to really motivate and get the best out of your staff. She was just a joy to chat with.
Joyce was a joy.
Joyce was a joy. Yes.
She's actually the CEO of the New York Convention Center Operation Corporation. They oversee the Javits Center. And she just such a good energy from her. And
absolutely.
Again, like you said, we don't often talk about the convention center side of things, but there's a lot of us who dabble in that world a little bit, or have partners, or have potential career paths with it. Joyce is leading a path for a lot of folks there, and definitely worth checking out that episode.
And then May 21st, we get to another Inside episode, but this is one we do typically every year. And it is really a very popular episode of ours, because this, we've had different kind of ways to do this in the past, and using the podcast in this way has become very, I think, effective. But we did an Inside episode into EVMC 2025, the Event and Venue Marketing Conference. And this basically kind of previews the conference before it went to Atlanta, Georgia. The conference had never been to Atlanta before, so that was very exciting to talk about it. On this one, we took a interesting approach in that we had our, conference president at the time, Kim Allen, join us. But we also had Meredith join us, who is based in Atlanta. And, she was able to provide, that local perspective, but also the perspective of someone who's only come to, I think, a couple conferences. So she sort of had that, fresh, recent newcomer kind of perspective. And then we also talked to Roberta Wright, who is a veteran of EVMC and, is based up in Portland, Maine. But Roberta is just one of my all-time favorite people, and someone that kind of helped shepherd me into this crazy industry. So it was really interesting to kind of preview the conference, talk about what it means to people, get various perspectives about it. But
if you're thinking about coming to Sacramento in 2026 and you can't wait for a Sacramento preview episode,
right.
You kind of want to glimpse at what to expect. Some of the info there is definitely evergreen and worth checking out. But gosh, for everybody who's listening, by the way, Sacramento is where we are headed in 2026.
2026
is Sacramento. And so here's your inside info, is that I was working on getting us to Sacramento in 2021, I think it was.
No, 2019.
Yeah. So that's how far back it goes.
Because we were talking about it before the pandemic, remember?
Yeah.
And it was like floating out there, and then it was, yes, you're right. It's been a long time coming.
Long time coming. Looking forward to being out on the West Coast and seeing our friends.
No, you're right. It would have been in 2021, but we were planning it back in 2019.
We were actively planning in 2019.
Yes.
For it to be in 21. And we don't need to, so there you go.
Crazy.
But that was great. And of course, that takes us to one of my favorite episodes when we do things live.
Yes. Well, and we recorded a live episode there. So we had another episode actually released. It actually released while we were at the conference. So June 4th, Cassie Gauze, who, we recorded with obviously prior to the conference, but June 4th, we're in Atlanta and this drops, which was really fun too, because normally we record these episodes and, we're texting the guests or emailing them and like, oh, congratulations. I was seeing Cassie in person,
Yes.
filling up my coffee in the morning, and Cassie's there and I'm like, your episode's up, so it was really fun to like.
Table there. She's working the table for CNK
Yes.
Media Solutions, which was cool to see and kind of hopefully gave her a little boost while she's there.
Yeah, and it was really fun to like celebrate that with her in person, which was so fun. And she's so interesting, so great, really refreshing, great energy, and is on our planning committee for the conference. So that was just a really cool episode. Another person who struck out on her own,
Started her own company.
Yeah, started her own company, tag teamed it with someone else. So I think that was really fascinating. I remember too with that one, them talking about that decision to like add another person to their staff, which doesn't seem like a lot to these big companies, right? But when you have your own company and you are now all of a sudden like responsible for someone's well-being, that's a lot. It's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of responsibility. I think it was really interesting and refreshing, and very honest too, how they talked about their approach to that. But it's really great to see them thriving, and was really fun to see her at the conference, but also to have that episode drop.
Yeah, here's Cassie's on the younger side of things, but already had that bravery to go out and start her own thing, and just killing it. I love what some of the stuff they're doing. So really creative, and if you want to learn about kind of what some of the stuff they're doing for venues, from a marketing side that are available to you, that's great stuff. But then also if you're thinking about maybe starting your own business, it's an inspirational episode.
Absolutely. And then Dave, teasing this, but certainly coming next after that, this was the episode we recorded that week. So as people know, if they've been to our conference or even if they just listen to the podcast and follow along, we always do a live episode at the conference, which is, always has a different type of energy. You're getting a reaction from an audience. You're, hearing them gasp, you're hearing them laugh, you're hearing them clap. It's just totally very different. We're all sitting up on a stage interacting with each other versus, huddled around our own laptops and, Zooming with each other. So for, EVMC in Atlanta, we interviewed Jay Carter, and he is with One Music Fest, which is a hip hop festival in Atlanta, one of the largest ones in the world, possibly the largest one in the world. And so we really, talked to him about a lot, but certainly followed his path to creating that, and the, bumps in the road they've had, and kind of how they stuck with it and really, move things along. I thought it was really inspiring to kind of hear about how, as with any sort of venture, you have challenges and sometimes financial challenges. You're trying to like get, brand recognition and awareness. And it was really great to hear him talk about, that whole path from, the very first year to where they're at now. And they had their festival that he was kind of previewing in October and had a Dungeon family reunion, which was so cool. He kind of teased and set it up in this, but just really great, really interesting, great episode. Those live ones are really fun, and so that one.
This one was not the most fun. Jay was a great guest, and Jay was awesome. And I loved hearing his stories and stuff. But for a little behind the scenes, we got there and we had all kinds of drama with the room was set up wrong, and we had microphone challenges.
True. This is true. That is good. Some good behind the scenes. People wouldn't even know it.
We were.
If you listen to the episode,
I don't think I've ever seen Paul so angry. Because it's like,
angry is a strong term.
Okay, but we just like things nice for our guests.
But sure, I want things buttoned up. So no, yeah, there was definitely challenges. You
and I were texting back and forth trying to make it work.
Yes,
the episode,
and then we go to editing. The levels were really low, and they were also all on one channel. There was some really challenges, and massive. This is a great example. Massive credit to Camille, who polished this, whatever. I'm not, made lemonade, really good tasting lemonade out of lemons. Like you would listen to this episode and never know anything different. Like it is. I've listened back to it. It is a great episode. You would never know. So
Just
it's
know
like
that Paul and I were sweating recording this one. We
were just
sweating.
like, it was really landing the plane to get it up and rolling. And then afterward, it was like, it took a little more effort. Not anything to do with Jay. He crushed it and was amazing.
Jay was great.
But it took some extra effort on the back end. But huge credit to Camille, who really. Yes, we were texting back and forth.
And some of our friends, and credit to our friends at the conference too, who helped us get things the best we could get them for that day.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And that takes us to July. So we talked to Chanel Grimm, and Chanel is in Washington D.C., which is really fascinating. And I think certainly some of the things that really stood out for me is. Some of the really great fan activations they do, lots of great artist gifting as well. But in particular, some of those, photo backdrops and fan activations was really fun. And I think it was just fascinating to hear about the DC market. It's so unique in that certainly it's, got an arena, it's got a stadium, it's got all this stuff going on like every city has, but it has all these historical monuments and, has a lot of tourism that come in to see these different historical monuments. And some of it's international tourism, some of it's, people from around the States. Sometimes it's, kids on field trips or whatever it is. And to have a live event venue in that market that is bringing in all these people, I think is really fascinating because you're, getting, it's not the same, but like almost Vegas where you understand there's just this, it's not like you're pulling in from people that are within an hour of the city. You're going to have people that are potentially going to shows that are coming from across the country. And so I think that was really just fascinating to hear about.
Yeah, Chanel, in her role there, marketing director for Monumental Sports, Capital One Arena, Eagle Bank Arena, District DC, some really cool stuff. And she had some great thoughts on, the best ways to use audio and social if you're challenged by some copyright issues.
Yeah, that's right.
So some great tricks of the trade, just a great marketing listen. If you're a marketing person, that's definitely an episode to check out.
This next episode after that is really one that stands out in the year is something quite special. I think it's something very unique to us, but we love having fun and launching. I'll say I love having fun and launching. I don't know if Dave and Camille do, but
not at all.
They probably roll their eyes at me every time I text them. I'm like, what if we do? They're like, okay, Paul, sure, let's give it a whirl. But I love launching. I think podcasts are such like fertile ground to kind of, if you have a fun, creative idea, you can try it and you can see how it works and you can continue it. And so, we do have these fun side series like our Inside episodes. We've got our Halloween series. We've, done some other kind of, pocket series, if you will, like on, Earth Week and mental health and stuff like that. And so I do think it's fun to kind of launch new ones. But this new one that we launched on July 16th called Breaking In was all because of the conference. So we were at the conference in Atlanta, and every year the conference takes on, I think, around 7 or 8 interns. These are people that are, trying to break into this industry, trying to work in live events in some capacity, whether it's at a venue or in sports. Some of them are soon to graduate or recently graduated, but it's always refreshing to talk to them and kind of hear about challenges and give them advice in person at the conference. But while we were there, and certainly we talk about this on the episode, but while we were there, one of those interns, Naomi Redwood, came up to me on the final evening event, and I hadn't really connected with her throughout the conference very much. And she was sort of like, do you have a moment? I have an idea for the podcast. And I'm like, let's go. Give me the pitch. Just the confidence. I can't really overstate the confidence it would take to do that. And I myself, if I were in her shoes at her age, would probably have not done that. But I loved it. I was all for it. And basically, she's like, it would be really great if we had a resource where interns or people that are breaking in the industry could highlight our struggles
Yeah.
and voice, what we're facing. It's very different. What people that are coming into the industry now are facing is different than what I was facing, different than what, mentors of mine were facing. And so certainly we all try to help them out, but we only can speak to our own experiences, and they're, experiencing a different world, a different industry. And so I was just really blown away by that concept and idea. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And I think I kind of caught her off guard because I was like so eager to like, all right, let's go. We're gonna record. And so not that long after the conference, we ended up, finding a name for it. This first episode, Recruit Roundtable, we dubbed it, and hopefully it's something we continue with some future episodes. Certainly that's the plan. But we talked to Naomi Redwood, Marquise Summers, Sierra Ross. These are all three interns from the conference. Got their perspective, heard about their experience as they're approaching this industry, challenges they've faced, and then also just gave them the space to ask us lots of questions that probably a lot of other people have. And so I think, hopefully that was something that was not only felt good for them, but also was a great opportunity for other people breaking into the industry to kind of get some feedback. And certainly Dave and I don't know the answer to everything, but I think hearing it discussed openly was really, it was just really special. I just really loved that episode.
Yeah, and if you're a younger person who's, maybe not even hired officially yet, it's a great chance to hear how some other people are kind of getting their kick started in the industry. So we're worth checking out for these newer to the industry folks.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was very encouraging, but also very human of like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
not
Yeah.
even in the marketing industry. But I had to break into the tech industry in the past couple of years and felt very similarly as they feel now. And I just thought, yeah, it was a really good conversation.
Yeah, it felt very honest. I really, really, really appreciated their candor and honesty and, challenges, but also their excitement. Nothing to get you excited about the industry than to see it through the eyes of people that are really eager to join it. It's like it
Mm.
really reignites your flame and are just like, wow, this is a really cool thing that we're doing. And yeah, that one was just really special. Thank you to the three of them so much again for that. And hopefully more to come in the future. That brings us to July 30th, where we talked to Alexa Coyle. And Alexa's up in Seattle, at a stadium, which I think was really fascinating to hear about. She also is a former professional soccer player, which is really fascinating. And so, just like with everyone else, she had a quite unique story, an interesting path that got her to where she is. One of the things that really stood out about that one is she has started her own business with a former teammate, and really with this effort to help women as they're exploring professional sports, or certainly as they're trying to get scholarships in college. And I thought it was just really, really great talking to her and hearing all about that, and also just hearing that stadium perspective.
Yeah, it's called the Female Edge, and hearing about her leadership there is really cool. And of course, everything that she's doing with the Seahawks and Lumen Field. I thought this was one thing I stuck out of my head that I remember is that Lumen Field includes the most just walkout concession stands of any venue in the world. And that's the kind of thing like me.
That's the nerdy weird stuff,
I
right?
love to geek out. I love to geek out about that kind of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
it's really cool. And Alexa coming to it from an athlete's perspective, really cool. And again, one of my favorite episodes of the year. I feel like I said that too many times, but it was a really fun one.
Then August 13th, we chat with our guy, Jeff Johnson. Jeff has been in the industry a while, such a really fun guy to catch up with at EVMC every year. Up in Indianapolis, really, really interesting. They're having quite the moment, quite the
Yeah.
sports moment in Indianapolis on many fronts. Not only the success they've had with the Pacers over the last couple years, but this one athlete I think a couple of people have heard of, Caitlin Clark, has been a little bit on the map for everyone and brought so much attention to the Indiana Fever, and just really hearing about that what that has been like. It's certainly helped change the WNBA, and I think they're kind of ground zero for that. And that was just really cool. And then just also hearing about, Jeff's history in the industry and kind of, what drew him into Indianapolis, and just some really fun stories he's had like from other previous stops.
Yeah.
I thought was really fun.
He's got some great stories in the episode. 27 years he's been there in Indy doing his thing. And yeah, he's an official title associate director with Pacers Sports and Entertainment and Gainbridge Fieldhouse. But yeah, 27 years hearing about what they did with the All-Star game. And Jeff is just one of those people that's so warm. And if you see the two of us at EVMC, chances are we're standing in front of a buffet. We are in front of a big plate of cheese and meats and making some very difficult decisions. Like hearing about his past and kind of things that he's doing there in Indy, they're like you said, they're having a moment. Jeff's a great guy, great episode, long overdue.
August 27th, we headed to Houston. Went to Houston. I say that, and really we were Zooming with someone from Houston. But we chatted with Elisa Patani, and or Lisa, as a lot of people call her. Really interesting to talk to her. I think I'm trying to remember the exact way she quoted it, but graphic design is her passion, or something to that effect. But really, it was really fascinating to kind of hear about her approach to branding the venue's social media channels, some of their graphics that they're using for Know Before You Goes or other things, and kind of what went into a lot of the thought with those. I think that's just really fascinating, and certainly a really great listen for anyone who's maybe got someone that's new on their team that's overseeing their social, or someone who's trying to punch up what their social presence is currently. Also, it was just really interesting to hear. I think we've all maybe faced this in some capacity in our jobs, but how she has kind of, taken on new responsibilities. Her role has changed, as their staff has changed. And it was just really fascinating to kind of hear that, particularly her, just candor around, jumping into the industry and like, here's this, and now I've got these other things, and how do I roll with it and juggle the different stuff. And she was really fun, really, really great blast to talk to, and really interesting too, to kind of dig in a little deeper on the graphic design side, which we don't always get to talk as much about.
Yeah, she, of course, is with the Toyota Center, the Houston Rockets, and I liked how she talked about, creating a social aesthetic, right?
Yes,
and then
the aesthetic
and visuals that are unique to your venue. So if you're on that side of things, she's doing great stuff and worth checking out for sure.
That brings us to September 10th, where we talked to Wendy Reeves. And I can't say enough about Wendy. I love
so
Wendy.
Much good energy.
I love Wendy so much. She came to the conference. She's based in Atlanta. So she was at the conference with a number of her teammates. And it was just so great to see her in person. There's definitely a moment in that episode where we're kind of gushing on each other and remembering our past in the industry, which was really, really warm memories for me, just because Wendy was our promoter rep at Feld when I was an intern way back in the day. And so it was just really great to kind of reminisce on that with her. And she's just really, really has such a fresh approach. It shouldn't be fresh. It should be kind of like how things are. But she has this really great, like, intentional approach to respecting people, no matter their career level, treating everyone with the same level of respect and energy. And to her point, you never know who's going to be the next GM, who's going to be your next boss. But it also really, I think, gives people a bit of a lifeline, as they're growing in this industry, because they can see someone is treating them like, a peer, and not, someone that is lesser than or something like that. So it was just so wonderful to catch up with her, and just to hear about all the things Feld has going on, just endless things they always have going on. And they're sort of a mainstay in this industry. And to talk about Atlanta, which is always so great. So it was a great episode.
Here's the thing: if you're a venue that works with Feld, if you're a marketer that works with Feld, check out Wendy's episode, right? Because she's a senior director of event and marketing sales for Feld, and kind of gives a behind the scenes look at why they do some of the things the way they do, and what makes a good venue partner. definitely, if you work with Feld and you would like to, kind of understand Feld a little more, Wendy's episode is a must listen.
That brings us to September 24th. Kai Lane, who is in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Rocktown.
Rocktown, that's right. Really interesting. So, one of the things that really stood out about this one that was really fascinating to hear about from a organizational side on how they kind of pull it off and what all they're responsible for is he works for the Convention and Visitors Bureau there, the CVB, and in Little Rock, they are responsible for, managing a number of venues for the city, which, every city is a little different. I obviously work for city government in Lexington, and we have some venues, but a lot of the other bigger venues in the city, have a big venue management company. So it's really interesting to hear about a Convention and Visitors Bureau, managing some city venues, and also while they're still juggling being a DMO, a destination marketing organization. And, they're not only marketing the city of Little Rock, but they're also marketing these venues within it and presenting events. And, I really loved also hearing about how he got to where he was, and he has such a unique and interesting path, but also he put himself through school by doing, like side hustles, and really, it's just really interesting. And
it was so motivating.
Yes, so motivating. It was kind of like you want to get to do something, you're the only one standing in your way. And I just really loved it. It was very refreshing.
Plus, he had some great barbecue recommendations.
Right.
I mean, the career stuff's great, but let's get to the part that I care about.
Come for the episode and stay for the barbecue recommendations. It's so true. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna have to go down. That's right. I think we talked about Adventures in Barbecue Land or something. As a spinoff, which I'm here for. That takes us to October 8th with Ritesh Patel. So Ritesh is with Ticket Fairy. And, it's a really, really interesting episode. We talked to some people on the ticketing side, but definitely not as common. And so just hearing about that, I think, was really fascinating, and their approach and starting that business and the challenges. One of the stories that I remember in my head is how he has a history in like coding. So he was doing the coding of the website, but then also like they had some sort of thing going on sale. He was at, if I'm not mistaken, Burning Man.
Yeah.
And they had some challenge happen, and he had to like go find some plane somewhere that got like 1 bar of reception so that he could fix this code. Kind of like, it was such a crazy story. It was really interesting and fun. And then him also just his love for like EDM music and dance music, and how he's launched these festivals, but how those festivals really came from this starting point of him promoting shows when he was young and kind of getting into that. I think it was just really such a interesting story.
Holy crap. I mean, imagine the guts it takes.
Watch your language.
Imagine what the cojones it takes to start your own ticketing thing in this day and age, right? It's so cool. And these people that are open about their challenges and their struggles and their again, I say the word bravery to go out and start their own thing. I'm so often come away from these episodes just inspired hearing the things that they do. And if you're all in the world of ticketing, this is your episode.
Oh, yeah. And then October 22nd, Tim Murray, who is a old college buddy of mine, but now works for the Cincinnati Cyclones as an athletic trainer, which I think that was just really fascinating to hear about. Not only someone on the team side, but someone who's working in hockey and someone who's working as an athletic trainer in hockey, one of the most physical sports arguably that exists. And his approach to that, what inspired him to do that, how he kind of prepares for game day, I think is really fascinating. What that looks like at home and what it looks like on the road, just really interesting. So fun to catch up with him. I've obviously known him for a while. And then also we, happened to chat with him during Dwarfism Awareness Month, which is October. So hearing about kind of his activism for that and, how he raises awareness for dwarfism and It was great. It was an interesting, quite unique episode for me, just because I have such a history of knowing him for so long. But certainly one of those episodes that's just a really different perspective. Some person in the industry that we don't necessarily always hear from. An athletic trainer, someone on the team side. I mean, it was just really fascinating.
I love our stories, when we talk to people in working for the busiest convention center, or they're out in LA and they're helping run crypto or whatever. But I also love when somebody's working for, minor league hockey, because I think sometimes,
Right.
you've got such a different perspective on things, and they come from a place where they're doing it. They're carrying literally a lot more on their back and the
Oh
things they've
yeah.
got to do. And I learned so much. I learned as much from sometimes the markets that aren't as big, or the teams that aren't the biggest on the planet, because I feel like sometimes they've got to work harder.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just some interesting stories, and really enjoyed chatting with your buddy Tim.
Absolutely.
The next one we got is this is Camille's specialty, right?
It
We're going to talk
is
about
certainly.
our
It's
favorite
one
time of year.
of, yeah, I don't want to steal her thunder, but I think she loves doing these episodes probably more than most of them. Not because she doesn't love everyone, but this really lets her have fun and really play around. And usually I'm just like, Camille, go for it. Whatever you want to do, I'm here for. But that brings us to our spooky Halloween episode. And this is now our fourth one of these, which is pretty crazy. But we talked with Javier and talked about Paramount Theater down in Austin and the State Theater, which is right next to it. But really dove into their series there, Panic at the Paramount, which is a movie series where they show a mix of horror films. Some of them are these kind of cult classics, and some of them are a little more modern. They'll have some cast from those movies come. One of them is presented by Robert Rodriguez, who is very involved with the theater. But then, of course, no Halloween episode would be complete without the spooky spookies. And so we got to hear about the story of the ghosts that haunt the Paramount Theater. And, one that really stood out was like, I forget what the name of it was, but it was like where someone saw someone on the stage, went down. It gave me chills hearing it. And then I know, Camille, when you were editing it, you texted me and you're like, oh my God. But it was like they went down to the stage, looked up into the stands, and then like saw the same person looking back at them, and then they disappeared. And it was like into the seats. It was like, ah.
There is another story, I won't spoil it, but there's photographic evidence of
Yes.
the ghost. And so I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Let me look it up." And it actually scared me. But I had to edit the rest of the episode in the morning.
I love that. That's so great. You're like, that's enough for tonight.
Yep.
I guess one fun thing. What is your approach for the listeners? Because people that listen to these, they hear all the like wah, wah, wah. Or like one of the ones that stands out to me is the when we talked to Red Rocks, and we talked about UFOs and whatnot. And there were some fun noises there, but we also had the ghost rattler snake, and you
Yeah.
put this and it kind of like went side to side in people's ears. Like, what's your kind of approach to these episodes? And what are your thoughts on it? Do you just kind of throw shit around and have fun with it?
You just throwing shit around, Camille, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean in the most effective and professional way. I don't mean it haphazardly.
It's a little bit of both. Yeah, you're right. It does feel like a lot of creative freedom, which is fun. I'm definitely still not trying to get in the way of anything, but it's
Sure.
always fun if I can. I have a few different resources. I have some keyboards that can make really
Yeah.
spooky sounds, and I'll use that. Or
They're Camille Faulkner original,
yes, there are some originals in there.
heebie-jeebies.
And then I have like a resource of a big sound library of sounds that I'll
Yeah.
pull from. The Ghost Rattler. I found a site, like an ecological site that documents different
Oh, wow.
species, and they had recordings of them. So I downloaded one and messed with it. So I like slowed it down or pitched it down
Oh,
so it sounds
yeah.
like spooky. And I think It's kind of a mix of stuff of grabbing sounds from different resources and then messing with them in a way that makes it really a lot of slowing stuff down, makes stuff really
Yeah.
spooky.
It definitely elevates it. It's creepy hearing about some of the stories, but then like when I'll re-listen to it after you've worked on it, it like makes it way more chilling. It's like when you're already feeling that, hearing about the story, and then you hear this music in the background, it just elevates that whole experience. It was so fun. That brings us to November 19th. So we kind of jumped ahead to the 19th because that Halloween episode fell, right around when we would have had another episode. And we talked to Nick DeLuco. And this was really fascinating because we've had the opportunity to do this maybe two or so times prior, but a very timely episode. So the episode dropped on a Wednesday, and that following Friday, our friends at TD Coliseum up in Hamilton, Ontario, opened the doors to their brand new venue, incredible new space right there in the Golden Horseshoe, as
Yes.
he was telling us about. But that was so interesting to not only hear about the final preparations, hear about his career journey through lots of different venues up in Canada, but also, as we all love, geeking out about all the fun toys and bells and whistles that Hamilton's got
Floor
now.
level suites.
For
What the
floor level
hell?
suites. I know.
I'm always
Pretty
like, oh
wild.
wow, that's you yeah, something new. All right, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Excited to check out the venue and really cool to hear, his perspective of what's happening, and from that perspective of a venue that's kind of just, getting ready to launch in a whole new way and very exciting. So a lot of buzz about that building and neat to hear some behind the scenes on how it's all coming together.
Right. And then that takes us to December 3rd. Christine Palekis, we head to Oz, the wonderful land of Oz, Wichita, Kansas, to talk to Christine, who is at Intrust Bank Arena. Really so great to talk to Christine. Dave, I know you and I have known her for many years, and, hearing about her role in balancing booking and marketing. And the kind of synergy between those departments, I think, so fascinating. Also, it was our 150th overall episode. So, what a big year because we had our 100th regular episode back at the beginning of the year. And we're kind of closing it up with our 150th overall, which is our regular episodes plus all of our bonus episodes. But so great to chat with Christine and just hear all about Kansas.
It's neat when you have people that you've known for so long, but maybe you don't know their history and their story, or people that you may have run into or worked with at different points, and hearing their backstory and kind of how they got to where they're at is really always one of my favorite parts of the pod. Is learning people that you've met, said hi to in passing, but how did they get there? How were they inspired? How did they break into the live events industry and in her journey and kind of taking on more of the world of booking was
Yeah.
fascinating.
And taking a big leap, moving west, moving to a city that she barely knew existed, and how she's planted roots there and made it such a home. It
And their
was
yellow brick
really, really
road. I
cool.
like the stories behind the scenes about the yellow brick road there, and
Oh,
so it's
yeah.
it's very very fun.
And that takes us to our last episode before this one, our final one of the year, not counting the one that you're listening to. December 17th, Molly Fremgen, who Molly is, I say this with a lot of people, and that's because I just really love a lot of people, but truly one of my favorite people in live events. I mean, she's great. I think I maybe laughed more and harder in this episode than most of the episodes. Just really fun stories. She is just such a bottle of energy that is just going to inspire you. It's really fascinating to hear, what they're doing at Stern Grove in San Francisco, which is where she works, but also just about her history in the industry. Really kind of funny and eerie and fascinating to hear kind of how she manifests these goals of hers and how she'll set goals of I really want to do this, I really want to do that, or I see myself doing that, and then magically here they are. And I think, some of that, depending on what you're believing, but I think also, you get out what you put into the world. And I think Molly, everyone that knows Molly knows that she puts out the best energy and such a fun, great personality, so positive, and so of course all the positivity should flow back to her and is well deserved. But what a great way to close out the year, and so fun to chat.
Yeah, I
chat
mean,
with
when
her.
you're talking about, what's it like to put on one of the biggest long time. I mean, this music festival started back in 1938 with the Stern Grove Festival.
Been around
And
a little
so,
bit,
but
a little
what it's
bit.
like to take on that legacy and then to continue to grow it and become such a cultural institution in the Bay Area, really a cool story and neat to hear about the work that she's doing. Well, on that note, Paul, what do we have planned for 2026? Can we give us a full rundown?
2026. Okay, let's
Camille,
go
you
through
saw
it
the
month
panic
by
set
month.
in, right?
He's like,
Hey, I got to say, seriously, though, we do have some great stuff planned. Paul is literally, as he teased earlier, always coming to me and saying, hey, here's an idea I got. Here's something I'm working on.
What if we had this person?
What
if we
about
did
this? And
Yeah.
so
Oh, yeah.
I know there's a lot of great stuff coming in 2026, and I love when we do our episodes with the marketing professionals. I also love our episodes where we reach out to people that are doing different things in the industry. One of the things that is for sure is that Paul and I will continue to do our work along with the entire Venueland team and doing what we can to share people's stories and their adventures and inspire, hopefully, and uplift, challenge, and really just kind of give you an opportunity to kind of hit that pause button on your struggles and listen to somebody else's struggles for a minute, right? But here,
Yeah. And sometimes it gives you new perspective on yours, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, maybe this isn't that bad, or it's bad, but it will eventually get better. Here's
in
what
5 years of
happens.
doing
Yeah.
this, I've just been amazed at the people in this industry, and I'm just so grateful to be part of it. And Paul and Camille, I'm thankful for all the work that you do to help us elevate this industry.
Likewise, yes. It's been such a fun ride with you, Dave, and Camille, and it's been so fun. And of course, Megan and Samantha, who do so much work as well for us. But yeah, very excited. Looking forward to 2026. Good stories to come. I'm hoping we'll revisit some of these ongoing series we have, like the Breaking In. Possibly maybe get another Ancient Venues episode in there, which I loved. We had one of those the year before, so we'll see what the year brings.
On that note, we'll wrap things up. But Camille, thanks for joining us and for all the work that you do throughout the year.
Yeah, of course. I love being here.
And a big thanks to our listeners, as always. We appreciate your support. And you know what you hear me say at the end of episodes, we do love your 5-star reviews because it helps other people find us. But if you haven't left a review yet, today's the day. Just take a minute, leave the review and put it on there because it does help other folks find us. And we do appreciate you listening. Until the next adventure, I'm Dave Redelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. Thank you for listening, everyone. We don't take any of this lightly. And also, if you've listened to this point in this episode,
God bless you.
I mean, really, I cannot thank you enough. I mean, we really, really cannot thank you enough. Thank you to all of our listeners, all of our guests, and here's to an amazing 2026. Adventures in Venueland is a side project of the Event and Venue Marketing Conference, a marketing conference that brings together diversified event and venue professionals to cultivate education, collaboration, and innovation for the growing sports and live entertainment industry. Find out more at eventvenuemarketing.com.
Audio editing and mixing by Camille Faulkner.
Design and digital advertising by Megan Ebeck.
Copywriting and publicity by Samantha Marker.
Guest booking and brand strategies by Paul Hooper.
Guest research by Dave Redelberger.
Marketing strategies by Paul Hooper, Megan Ebeck, and Samantha Marker. Thanks for joining us. Until the next adventure.